Welcome to our canSERV webinar. My name is Saba Abdulghani. I'm the head of Biobanking Development at BBMRI-ERIC, and I'll be moderating today's webinar. Today, we're going to explore how canSERV can accelerate your cancer research and guide you through our current call for early career researchers. Before we start, I want to let you know that this webinar is part of a multidisciplinary consortium project uniting 18 research partners consisting of 13 research infrastructures, key organizations in the field of oncology, project management, and sustainability experts. And it is funded by the European Union's Horizon Europe Research and Innovation Program. Today, our experts guiding us through this project and the call are Professor Jens Habermann, Coordinator of canSERV and Director General BBMRI-ERIC. Professor Vitor Martin Dos Santos, co-leader of canSERV Biomarker Research and Validation Services from IBISBA. Professor Enzo Medico, leader of canSERV ENPO and the EMTBN initiatives from the EurOPDX. Dr. Manuela Pausan, Scientific Stakeholder Manager at BBMRI-ERIC, and Dr. Pauline Audergon, Project Manager at INSTRUCT-ERIC, who handles the development and day-to-day operations of the canSERV Access Management Platform for call submissions. Our agenda, as you can see on the screen, will introduce you to the canSERV project and the 400+ free cancer research tools and services, what the call for early career researchers is and how to apply, and followed by an expert panel and Q&A. We will stop recording, as I said, prior to the Q&A session. And for now, I'll hand over to Professor Habermann to start with his presentation. Over to you, Jens.
Thank you so much, Saba, and welcome everyone to this webinar. And I think I will share my screen in a second. Super, wonderful. Good. So I will give you a short overview of the project overarching before I give you then some insights onto this call, which we are talking about. But canSERV really is providing cutting-edge cancer research services across Europe. And what this entails, I will show you in the next few minutes. So it's the canSERV mission and vision basically to make cutting-edge and customizable research services available, to enable innovative R&D projects, and to foster precision medicine for the patient's benefit across Europe. Well, what does this mean actually? So when canSERV came together, this consortium funded by the European Commission, we were set out to provide a minimum of about 200 different and unique services for personalized oncology, to establish a single access point for request services and training, to make it very easy and intuitive for you as scientists and clinician scientists basically to work in cancer research and to find the resources that you need across countries, research infrastructures, and so on. And I will come back to this. And then in the end, to ensure that the data that will be generated related to oncology will be fully compliant to the FAIR principles and enhance synergies with EU initiatives such as EOS for Cancer and Understanding Cancer platform. And as you may know, the project proposals have been just submitted this Wednesday to build the Understanding Cancer platform on CanEU. And obviously, we need to look into how to provide these unified resources and our network beyond our project duration. This is less of your concern, but I think this single access point and the number of different services that you can access and get even funding for, this is obviously key for you to understand and learn. Now, a few facts and figures. canSERV is really built on 18 consortium partners with over 130 service providers in the wider communities in the member states of the European Union. And these 130 service sites bring together more than 400 services and more than 9 research fields and trainings. And I'll come back to this because this is really key for your activities. We got about 9 million euro of a transnational access budget, which means 9 million euro of our grant from the European Commission will be basically given to you, a scientist applying for research projects inside canSERV. The project runs for 3 years until August next year. And this is basically in this time frame this budget is available. And through this time frame, we had already and will still have additional calls for applications for projects and for funding. And today we will speak about one of these calls specifically. Now, from the service catalog, you can see, and you will find this also on the website of canSERV, that there are 9 different fields from which services can be picked. And it starts from very basic disease models, animal models, and then going on to advanced technologies for personalized oncology, any kind of omics or imaging technologies, for instance, then towards biomarker research, development, and validation goes already more in the translational part into clinical implementation. And this is also aligned then with new therapeutic solution, technologies, guidance, and so forth. And then also towards accelerated translation into personalized oncology clinical practice. And this really targets then even molecular tumor boards to the fullest concept. There are, of course, services also such as bioinformatics, analytics, which we summarize under open digital research services, here field 6. Then we, of course, also supply with access to human samples and data, specifically if it's in translational research, and also clinical trials and design guidance here. Not to forget, of course, ethical, legal, and societal economic dimensions are, of course, a key aspect. And all these basically feed into the Cancer Mission Board recommendations overarching. Now, what is very specific is that there is this training activities. And I think this is something which specifically for this call that we are now offering might be important for you, because these trainings cover all these different fields, from really understanding what is needed, conceptualizing, etc., etc. And there we will give a more detailed overview there. This is just how the canSERV consortium is composed, and you can see here basically all the European research infrastructures in the health and life science domain working together, bringing their different expertise and services into one access portal, which you can find through canSERV website, to basically ask and pick what is needed for your specific researches. So you can basically go for online shop and put into your basket what you kind of need on either samples, data, omics technologies, bioinformatics, and so on, independent where these services and expertise is located throughout this entire consortium, which, as you can easily see here, spans entire Europe. Now, talking about research infrastructures, not everyone is probably aware of it. This is set up by the European Commission and the member states, and these organizations that enable the research community to use specific facilities, resources, and services to accelerate scientific achievements and promote sustainable research. And there are different ways and formats of research infrastructures. Many of them, specifically in the health and life science domain, are distributed. So they provide specific facilities, resources, and services that are geographically scattered across Europe in the member states of these research infrastructures. There are others which are single-sided research infrastructures where everything is concentrated on 1 or 2 or very few locations. And then, of course, there are also virtual infrastructures who provide electronic services, networks, archives, databases, and data banks. And overarching, there are specific forms which are called ERICs, so the European Research Infrastructure Consortium, which is a very specific legal form that is really set out from the European Commission, the member states, to facilitate the establishment and operation of research activities across European countries. And that's actually what we are fostering here in canSERV, to enable you in your research activities. So please make ample use of it and apply for the funding that we have basically applied on behalf of you by the European Commission. And this budget and this provision of finances for your projects actually goes among the transnational access funding stream from the European Commission. So that's why you hear about the TNA, the transnational access. And this allows users free of charge access to services offered by the entire canSERV consortium members in any European country where these research infrastructures are located and have their subsidiaries. And these TNAs can be either physical access, so in person with users visiting the research infrastructures, facilities, installation, and receiving the services hands-on, or for specific activities, it could be also remote access, that resources and services offered by the research infrastructures or service provider without users physically visiting. So these opportunities are open to all European and non-European researchers, so actually globally. But yeah, please, if you have any questions, who is eligible, I think we have clear guidelines on our website, on the calls listed. But if there are any questions, please also come back to our help desk. Now, canSERV in a nutshell is really this one-stop shop I talked about in the beginning for cancer research services. So it's really a very rich catalog where you can find the right services for your research endeavors. It's called CAMS, and you can log on there basically and find and screen in the different fields different services from the different service providers, as I said, across all the 13 research infrastructures with their 130 associated service providers across Europe. And you're not bound to any specific site, so you really use this as a one-stop shop to put in your basket what you need for your research activities. So what we're now talking about is the call for early career researchers. And this is basically called a challenge call, training the next generation of cancer researchers. And to give you some more information, you can also find the information on the link that is provided on the left side, calls at canSERV.eu. So we really would like to empower here the early career scientists through access to research services and training, advancing their scientific merits and careers. And this has been discussed together also with our scientific and ethical advisory board. So high renowned scientists who basically suggested really we need to focus, and this was in line with our interest as well, and also backed up by the European Commission and the Cancer Mission Board. And that's why I think you should take ample use of this call, because it's really targeted for young scientists or early career scientists, so to say. So that is also then easier in terms of competition, because this is not allowed, this call for advanced career scientists. And please make use of it. So also here, you have the free of charge possibility to access the services in all these research fields I showed you. And you can also make use of this training specifically in accordance either with your project proposal or in addition. And we can guide you through this a little bit more specific later as well. It's also about TNA access again, which I just talked about, either physically or remotely. And the indicative overall budget for this call is about €500,000. So it would be probably wise to say, don't try to put your entire research project in this application with exceeding either this €500,000 or taking almost all this €500,000. But it's really the idea to close certain gaps in your otherwise research-funded projects that will make the EU or help you to go for the next step and then apply even further. So I think we need to distribute what we have to the best applications we get, and we have an independent external review process, which is also explained on the website. Now, on the 17th of December, it's the deadline to basically submit, but yeah, any time before is absolutely fine. Afterwards, it might be difficult. So please be aware of this deadline. I think I'm already through my presentation. Thank the entire consortium to make this happen, what we have provided here and provide to you. And I'm handing back to Saba. And I think in the end, we will probably have questions together. But if there's anything urgent now, it is up to you.
Thank you, Jens. I would like to ask Vitor now to please share your presentation and tell us about the training sessions in canSERV.
All right, so apologies for this. So I'd like to go a little bit more in detail into the training services that that were just mentioned. Professor Habermann just mentioned them, and I think it is important because one tends to think about often in this type of research, one tends to think about specific services for certain activities. And most of them, and more, these activities require training. They are complex and not straightforward, and sometimes require specialized equipment or specific training. So this program is fully geared to that. And I'd like to go into the detail of this. So if you look into the specific website of the canSERV and on the services that are provided, you will see here, and I'm just demonstrating here, you go to the website, you go to services. There are quite a number of services being provided. You click on training. And when you see on training, you'll be directed to a service list. There is an extensive service list on the training itself. And once you get there, this is what you see. You see there is a number of fields. There are service fields. For example, in this particular case, you see that this is the training. You go from different areas, from disease models all the way to training. And you have a list of all the training activities. You can filter those through a service category, service type, or countries, and they are coded in a way so that you can see what type of service field that is, so that it facilitates. If you go to the next, for example, you can select by country. Suppose you want to have specific trends on a country near you, so that is maybe a little bit easier sometimes, and you can select them. These are various providers. There are about 9 countries providing services, and you see a list of those. They participate in, this one, we don't have it marked, but if you go to the website and you mark, and then you will see, for example, those that provided in Austria. Training international standards for pre-analytical samples processing. You see that the first one you have here. And then you can also have them, as I say, you have different countries, and 9 of them. You can have you see the trainings provided and the providers, the trainings and the service providers, because a number of service providers provide more than one training. And then you can see, and then you can indicate the request you have. Now, suppose you go to the service type. There are many different types of trainings related to alternative non-mouse models, bioinformatics, characterization, biophysical characterization, cell sorting, chemosensitivity assays, clinical trial support, correlative multimodal microscopy, cytokine measurement. There are different things here. Now, these are important because you may, if you apply for a particular service, you may entail different services. They are, although it's through a one-stop shop, but are provided by different providers, and they entail different types of skills and technologies. And in many cases, you may need to combine several. So if you go to, and I'll strongly recommend you to go to this part. And if you go to a little bit more in detail, the type of trainings that you have, you can see it here. On going from pre-analytical sample processing and biochemical and cancer research, more specifically, also related to quality management systems in biobanking. So each one of you may have different needs, of course, and it's important to go through this to identify what is the training that you would be requiring. And sometimes you need this training to help you selecting and carrying out the type of research for which we need services. So I think it's very important to play a role, to look into this in detail, and so that you can do the best assessment possible also for your proposal. Okay, so you can go through this list. You see several of them. This, for example, digital pathology, preclinical mouse models of cancer, and you see how these trainings can be indeed very specific, for example, for users on CRISPR-Cas genome editing course, so which is something that many of you may use. And there are different types of things that learning more about gene editing, how it works, and the latest techniques in the field, optimized RNA guide design, these type of matters. There's also summer school, as you indicate, on the practical application of epidemiological principles and applied to cancer activities. You would have mouse genetics, colony management for animal technologies. That's quite specific, maybe not for all of you, but that's the whole idea of providing a broad portfolio of courses that allows you to have as much as possible covering the areas of your interest. You see here, also on bioinformatics, they're mentioned. This is very specific on the bioinformatics, because most of the the courses and activities that you may require for the interactions that would require as well knowledge of bioinformatics, data analytics, and nowadays machine learning and AI. So there are a number of courses dedicated to machine learning and AI decision support systems that help in the clinical side, but also on medical research, multivariate statistics. These are maybe things that many of you may not be familiar with if you are more on experimental type of work. So you can see there is a rather broad portfolio of courses of interest, then also related to, say, ongoing validation of technological processes and GMP process documentation. These are types of things that are quite important for also essential things such as quality standards in biobanking for those of you working in these areas. So I strongly recommend you to go through this catalog of training courses and possibilities, because it can be really of use to complement your application, which should consist of a balanced portfolio of service requests. So this is essentially what the short overview that I would like to give you on this topic, so that you can indeed complement and plan your requests accordingly. So this is the summary, and I'm happy to answer any questions, or there will be for later. Saba?
Thank you, Vitor, for this comprehensive presentation. We will wait with the questions and answers towards the end of the webinar. I would like to invite now Professor Enzo Medico to share his presentation with us on the Cancer Path Builder. Enzo, please, the floor is yours.
So good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to describe a particular service of the cancer project, which is called the Cancer Path Builder. I will briefly present you the scope and rationale of this service and some description, and then how you can find the providers of the service. And then I will conclude with some comments. So the idea of this service came during the project preparation, because we reasoned that we as canSERV can provide many different services. You have seen about 200. But one key objective of this whole platform is to help researchers bring their discoveries to the bedside. And of course, this process is very hard, very long. It includes a lot of things, many phases and aspects. And frequently, there is not a good connection, and it's a kind of a trial and error. And in particular, we think we thought the young investigator may benefit from a service that guides through all what we can provide, starting from the researchers' discoveries or projects, and help provide evidence solid enough, even if not immediately, at least in perspective, to then bring the discovery to clinical trials. Also, we reason that sometimes you applicants may not really know all the details about what service we can provide. There are so many you can search, but sometimes you just don't know exactly what to search. While the expert of canSERV, of the infrastructure, know the services that are provided and can help identify proper services. So we thought of building this particular service, which is an advice, okay, to provide expert advice. It's called Cancer Path Builder because you have to build a pathway, you know, from your discovery or from your problem towards clinical application. So the advice will be related to the services of potential utility, on the steps necessary for that. And in particular, we will focus on research for advice for projects that are across field. You have seen that the over 200 services are kind of subdivided by kind of field of interest. And in some cases, you need to go from one field to another along your pathway. So we will not provide a real wet or informatics service, but expert advice, okay? And the title of the service, you can write it is written here, a service to help users navigate the catalog and elaborate complex project involving multiple services. Okay, and so this is going to help you tailor your research workflow. It can involve what you can do. It should involve what you can do in your lab, in your institute, or with collaborations, and include also additional support by the services that we, as a consortium of infrastructures, can provide. And in this way, you will also gain access to expertise of the participants, of the participating infrastructures. So the starting idea is you provide a complex project that may request access to different services of canSERV, and the cancer path builder will involve experts of the various aspects of your projects, either translational oncology or preclinical, in vivo, or clinical oncologies, to provide a comprehensive advice and guide you to really establish a pipeline that has a possibility of moving forward towards the patients. Like, for example, you find a variant of unknown significance, you want to identify its functional role, and this may require some molecular biology, structural biology, in vitro analysis, in vivo analysis. We can provide services about almost everything. Of course, we cannot provide all at once and cover one single entire project, but we can guide you through what can be done in your lab and what can be done through the services. So how can you find the providers? So as previously mentioned, you need to go to the directory of the catalog here. This is the web address, and you will find the search here, the search option, and you should just search for Cancer Path Builder. And once you do that, and then you click search, you will see, essentially after done this, you will see 8 services by 8 providers. So essentially, this is the same service provided by 8 different providers for infrastructures. Of course, it depends on where your project is more focused on, because the different infrastructure, of course, provide different things. As an example, the description is the same, but this is kind of the box here will tick your application to my university, so to myself. I'm the coordinator of the work package, and so you will request this advice to the University of Torino. This doesn't mean that we will not involve the other infrastructures. Of course we will, and we will recruit experts from the infrastructures that both provide the service, or they do not provide the Cancer Path Builder, but they can provide relevant services, so that we can help put together the document that will guide you to properly design a research pathway towards a clinical application. Okay, so, and just to conclude very quickly, so the service, as you can imagine, is extremely flexible, because we will provide advice about what is needed. Okay, so it can be adapted to the needs of the applicant. And I think it's particularly useful for young researchers that may not have a clear idea of the roadmap towards bringing discoveries to the patients. So the output is a document. Okay, it will contain some technical, but also some scientific comments and indication on the project. And of course, we will also try to pinpoint services which are correctly sized. As you have heard, the budget is not unlimited for the whole service that we provide. So we must be very cost effective in helping you where it is more critical. And then you should be able to, or should find a way to cover the other steps in other ways, either in your lab, in your institute, or through collaborations. So of course, we will involve expert providers with the required expertise for the various aspects of the project. So I think this is it. I remain available for any question. This is my email. If you have doubts, you can just contact me, and I will provide additional information. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Enzo, for this very valuable information regarding the Cancer Path Builder. To help explain how to apply for this call, I invite Manuela and Pauline to present the final part of this webinar.
Thank you, Saba. I will share my screen. So we will try to really show you a live demo. So as you've seen in the previous presentations, if you go to our webpage about the project, so if you go at www.canserv.eu, you will come to the webpage and you can read all about the project, the partners that are involved, and many more. And also, as Vitor already indicated, you can read about the different fields and the different services that are available there. I will just show you on the call. So if you go in the calls, you can also see the past calls that were closed, and you will see the open ones where nothing is written next to them. That means that they're open. So today we will focus on training the next generation of cancer researchers. And if you click, this will take you to the webpage part for the call specifically. And we strongly encourage you that you read the entire call text because it contains important information that you should keep in mind when you're submitting an application or selecting your services. So you will find here information about what your research project should be focused on, if you're granted, what the benefits, what you should know about the call, what's the indicative budget, again, the deadline is mentioned there, and a lot of information, how do you gain access to your services, including this common application management system part. And once this educational webinar will be ended and the recorded will be made available here, so you will be able to rewatch it as many times as you wish to learn how to gain access to the services. The transnational access part is very important. Jens already mentioned to it, but please read it. There are some exceptions specifically. So generally, we expect the applicants to apply for services that are not from the same service providers in the same country where you are performing your research activities. So let's say if you're in Italy, you should go for services that are not in Italy, with the exception that if a service provider is an ERIC, then this is allowed. So there's a bit of explanation there, and there's definitely more information in the frequently asked questions. Then you have the eligibility part, which is also very important, the evaluation criteria, and all the information further. What I also suggest is that you read the user guidelines or you check the user guidelines. This is also, we help you really step by step how to submit an application for the respective call. And if you have any other questions that are not being answered in the call text or in the frequently asked questions, you can anytime email us at calls@canserv.eu. So now let's go to apply now part. So when you apply, this will take you to the first part of the application process, which is the catalog of services. As Vitor already indicated in his presentation, you can use the search tool, you can use the service field, the category, service type, or even by countries to select specific services. In my case, I want to, let's say I have a compound that I was working on and I know it has anti-tumor properties and I want to do further validation of it. So I'm interested to find what kind of validation services are available in the portfolio. So if you write validation here, you will get a list of validation potential services available, and you can anytime click on the service or on the service provider to read more about the service provider or the service. I just click to show you how it is. So if you click here, you will find a definition or a description about it. And also you can go to the website of the service provider. So going back now to the validation. So I'm very much interested in this advanced profiling service, including in vitro efficacy for confirmed hit compounds. So I will be selecting this one. Once you click on this box, it will appear in the request part. But additionally, I would also potentially like to see a training that might help me to take, let's say, my compound to the next steps. And I'm going to the trainings, as you've seen. Maybe I was too quick. I went to service fields, I selected trainings, and this brought me to all the trainings that are available. And you can read again through all the trainings. And I saw previously there is one on cancer drug discovery, from target identification really to drug approval. And I think this is a good training that could potentially bring me closer to bring my drug to potentially in the future to the market. Why not? So I'll be clicking on it and it will appear in my request. So once you go to the request part, you will see the two services that you have selected. You can decide to remove a service by clicking on the X, or remove all if you want to remove all of them. And once you decided on the number of services you want to have for your application, you can go to the next step, which is applying through the different calls. So currently we have 2 calls open, but we are focusing on the call for early career researchers. If you click on the information icon, this will take you back to the call text, so you can read again through the call text. But if you're ready to already apply, you click on Apply Through, Call for Early Career Researchers, which will take you automatically to the next part. And here I will actually stop and I will hand over to Pauline, as Pauline will be walking you through this part of the application process. So I stop sharing.
Thanks, Manuela. So let's see if the live demo keeps on being on our side. It was a bit of a bold move, but hopefully we make it real. So I stop where Manuela stopped, exactly with the same service selected. And we go to the next step, which is actually going to take you to the second part of the Common Access Management System, in which you will have the form to fill in. So the first step will be to authenticate. So we ask you to authenticate to our system. You have different ways. So if you have already an ARIA account, so the second part of the CAMS is supported by the ARIA software. So if you have already used ARIA, you can use your ARIA account, but you can also log in with other AI systems, such as the LS login or your ORCID account. So I will log in right now. And that leads you to the second part of the CAMS and to a secure system in which the information that you fill in regarding your application will be shared only within the consortium of canSERV. So the first step is that you see you have like a demonstration of what are going to be the steps of the application procedure from your side. So at that stage, you have selected 2 services and you have confirmation that that's the 2 services that you have been selected. And if you keep going on your proposal, that would be those services that will be considered. If you see that you have done a mistake, you will have to go back to the catalog of service and continue that way. Then I will move on to continue the proposal once that we have confirmed that the application was correct. And you are taken to the second step, which is the application form itself. One thing that I need to mention here as well is that from that stage, you are given a project identification that is mentioned here, this 34186. And at any point, you can find this draft proposal in your dashboard. So it is automatically saved, and you can save your proposal at all of this step. And if you go to your dashboard, you can continue working on your proposal. So here is the actual application form. So you can check that you have your service selected properly. The form has many fields, some that are more on the administrative part, general information about your proposal, and more in-depth question about the scientific content. If you have already applied through canSERV, you will see that the form is quite similar to the form used so far. One of the difference that you will have here is that as it is a call that is restricted for early career researcher, you will be able to apply only if you are category C or category D researcher, so not if you are a more experienced researcher. For each of the fields and the section, you have a little help text. So when you see a question mark, is that there is a bit more information that you can find regarding what is supposed to be filled in each of the section. And of course, every time that you have a little star, it means that you need to fill in this section. So you have a few optional fields in the form, but overall, most of them are compulsory. So this is, we prepared already a test proposal. Here is all the administrative things that you have to write with your address. Here is the more scientific part with actually the content of your research proposal. So we asked you to, your proposal is judged for scientific excellence, but it's also judged by the facility that you are requesting to access for technical feasibility. So we asked for quite a bit of details concerning the number of samples and things like that, just to be sure that your proposal is actually feasible. So be quite thorough in all the information that you're filling in here. We are also asking you to upload a short CV and also to complete your profile in ARIA with information about your experience in science, but I will get back to that. So this is all the information about the form. There is also a part about ethics that is pre-filled, but please check all of it and update if it's not fitting. your needs. If your proposal has any need for ethic approval, you will be asked to add the information here with the ethic approval that you already have for your project. Then you are asked to declare that all the information that you have provided is correct. And at that stage, you can either save your proposal and get back to it later, or you can save and continue the proposal. So it takes you to the next step of the proposal application, in which you can, if you want, add colleagues that will be working with you on this proposal. So by default, the principal investigator will appear as yourself. If you are not a PI, which might be possible for such an early career researcher call, you can delete the person and add someone else. That will be your actual PI. Any person that is added here will have to be registered in the canSERV site. So if you want to include your PI or any other colleague to your proposal, please ask them to register with canSERV, and then you will be able to manually search them and invite them to join the proposal. As I mentioned, when you send your application, and if you create an account to start your proposal, you will see that you have to fill in a profile. Make sure when you apply that your profile is complete. So here at that stage, you have this section about profile. You will be taken to your ARIA profile, in which you can add information about your publication, your institution, things like that. Please fill in this information, because it's something that appears on your proposal and that is very visible for the reviewers. So very often they use that to check your expertise about a specific topic, as well as your CV. So it's very useful to have it filled in properly. Then you go to the next step. So that stage is just for you one last chance to check what you filled in your proposal, and that nothing is missing. So you have all the information that have already been filled in. And here you go to the next step, which is actually accepting the terms and conditions of the call. So you have a link to the terms and conditions that you can check here, and you will have to tick this box to confirm that you read and agreed the terms and conditions of the call. And now you have confirmation that the proposal has been submitted. If you click here, you will have, once again, a look at what you have submitted. And you can also go to your dashboard, in which you will see the list of all the proposals in which you have applied for. So this one is the one that I just submitted. So it's not in draft mode anymore. Once that you submitted, you cannot update the proposal anymore, but you can see the details about the proposal. And I think that's about it for the application process. Just for your information, if you have any question regarding the call, we have the general call@canserv.eu email address where you can ask questions. If you have a more technical question regarding this application part, if you have technical issues at the moment of filling in your application, you can contact us via the canSERV@instruct-ERIC.org, in which we and our IT team will be able to help you, hopefully. And that's all from my side.
Many thanks, Pauline and Manuela, for this very comprehensive demonstration on how to apply for this call. So throughout this webinar, you've learned about the mission and main objectives of canSERV, the various research fields and trainings offered, and the associated services provided through these fields. And finally, the application process for this open call as presented just now. We frequently share content and updates on issues related to canSERV via the canSERV newsletter. You can sign up on our website, that's www.canserv.eu. You will also find information on this call on that website. And if you enjoyed this recording, please share it with your colleagues and forward the website address to them as well, if they are interested. I see now.